From the very beginning, there was something about Ember Knights that just really grabbed our attention. Leading up to its release, we talked about it numerous times, talking about how excited we were to play it. When the game was released into early access on Steam, we played it and had a hard time. It was more difficult than we had anticipated. But for us, that's hardly a new obstacle, as we have never been particularly good at games, we just have fun with them. Since roguelites and roguelikes are designed to be more difficult than your average game, we often struggle to get into them. But we have never been pulled into one as much as this. Several days went by immediately following the release, and we played every single day. Eventually, it got to the point where we weren't even sure that we would be able to beat this game. So we reached out to my brother to add a third player to the party. Though to our dismay, and probably beneficial to anybody that wants to play with multiple people, the game does seem to get harder the more players you have. Sadly though, that was somewhat due to an increased amount of lag that was added with a third player, though not an incredible amount. With my brother's help though, we got close to beating the game. But unfortunately he had to leave before we beat it, and all of our arms and hands were aching from the strain of battling our way through 4 worlds, and then dying against what we thought was the last boss. Turns out there's actually 5 worlds, so yeah. Our next attempt at beating the game had us working with my brother-in-law, a gamer in his own right who has a little bit more experience with games like these, as he has over 500 hours in Enter the Gungeon, a game that Carly and I can't even get past the 2nd floor on. Though it was somewhat infuriating, it was not really a surprise that he excelled at the game. He was far better than either of us, even after we had around 15 hours into the game. This just goes to show that what is difficult for us may not be difficult for you, depending on the types of games you play. The co-op here is very much in the realm of supporting one another and just having a blast, rather than really doing anything to work together. Sure, you always have to be aware of who needs what food and when your friend is in danger so you can have their back, but aside from splitting your goal to buy the best things for all of you and not hogging all of the loot drops, there is no real interaction between players. While quite difficult, Ember Knights does a fantastic job of making victory seem achievable instead of impossible. In large part, this is from providing us with little incentives along the way to help us continually power up, starting with unlocking additional passive abilities and powerful attacks here and there. Messing around with each new attack as we got it was enjoyable, and unlocking new passive abilities one by one always had us excited to see what new options were going to be added to our runs. Eventually we had unlocked enough to really start working on synergies or niching into specific types of abilities, from fire, ice, or poison lines to lightning and crit based builds. It was always a treat when we unlocked a new ability that worked wonderfully with those we had come to favor. On top of those new attacks and abilities, we were also continually unlocking new weapons, each with their own perks and fighting styles. While we ended up favoring the first weapon, there is a decent amount of weapon varieties to match your particular fighting style. Along each run, you will also collect embers that can be used to level up a variety of different perks to permanently increase your strength. While gold collected throughout each run can be used to purchase stat upgrades, attacks, abilities, or even potions to heal you during that run. While it was a little frustrating how slow we made progress from world to world, these little upgrades proved to be the reason we kept coming back without completely losing hope. We kept thinking with just one more upgrade, we might finally beat the game. That was when we stumbled upon the last upgrade available to us, the ability to increase the strength of our weapons. With this, we finally actually had a chance. The enemies in the game are wonderfully designed. Learning their patterns took us some time, but eventually we were able to learn how to conquer most enemies, and mainly took damage from being overwhelmed. The exception to this was in the 4th world, where everything was so powerful and there was so much going on that it became difficult for us to tell what enemy was doing what. Part of this I think comes from the hectic design, but part of it also comes from lag caused on this level. It's not the entire time, and it's not even every run, but with so many different attacks and enemies on screen at once, there is a noticeable amount of lag occasionally. Playing on Switch anyway, and this lag does also increase the more players you had, though we never had more than 3. The boss fights were fun and engaging. Each one was an impressive sight and daunting to contemplate fighting. Learning their patterns is crucial to come out victorious, and they still proved challenging to defeat even when we felt we knew their playbook. Each world has the same boss every run. However, the mini bosses were never the same. They would swap between a couple different styles, mixing up each run enough to make that fight feel fresh. The differences were small, but that little difference was enough for us to struggle to remember which one did what. We really enjoyed learning the little secrets along the way. Like, if one of you dies during a mini boss, you will revive with a decent amount of health. This led to one of us often sacrificing ourselves just before defeating that mini boss so that we could get that little boost in health. We also found that some wisps would use magic to upgrade food items lying on the ground to make them more powerful. Another helpful thing we stumbled upon was that the healing rooms would actually revive your companions, so before reviving ourselves in any specific room, we would wait to check if the next room coming up was a healing room. As I said before, there was always something that drew me to this game, and I think in large part that had to do with the visuals. They are just fantastic. The characters are adorable and offer fun customization, while also looking fierce enough to be the daring knights destined to save the realm. Each world looks great with vibrant colors and art that is very appealing to the eyes. But despite all of that, the gameplay itself ended up being fantastic as well. At this point, we have more than 20 hours in Ember Knights and still have not managed to defeat the 5th world. I never expected to spend more than 10 hours playing. I think if anything I have said means something to someone, then that should, because we don't put that kind of time into games that we're not having fun with. If Carly doesn't have fun in the first hour of a game, it is so hard to drag her back to try again. So for the price of $1 per hour, if you're up for a challenge and a little bit of grinding, it's definitely worth the 20 bucks. There are so many other great couch co-op games out there, but they can be hard to find, so click on this video to find some of our favorite couch co-op games. I can't wait to see you guys over there. I love you guys. Y'all are awesome.